Thank you. All right, welcome everyone to the Wallet Interoperability Special Interest Group call for May 5th, 2025. Today on the agenda, we have a presentation titled Identity Meets Money, Real World Payments with EUDI Wallets in Production from Lal Chandran and George Padayati. Thank you so much for joining us. Really looking forward to the presentation. We are recording this call. It will be posted on the meeting page later today or tomorrow, and Sean is going to post it on YouTube as well later. We are following the Linux Foundation antitrust policy and the OpenWallet Foundation Code of Conduct. In terms of some quick announcements, we have some upcoming topics as well lined up. Next week, we'll learn about the Pidentity wallet. We'll discuss a test harness and test tooling for DIIP. We'll dive more into wallets and interoperability in the EUDI wallet consortium, and yeah, a few others. So lots of great topics today and ahead. Let's see, are there any other announcements before we get started? And also, if there are any introductions, anybody who is new to the call and would like to take a moment to introduce themselves and say a bit about what they're interested in this space, that would be great. Yes, Stephen.
I'll throw out that did WebVH 1.0 is now the current version of the spec. So we've got a 1.0 spec. We'll continue to do clarifications and basically text cleanups and typo cleanups over the next while, but the 1.0 functionality is finalized. And so that is the current version of the spec. So if you just go straight to the spec, that's the landing page for it, which we're quite excited about. So good to see that done. The implementations have the previous version did WebVH 0.5 is what they're at, and so they'll be adjusting, and the changes are minimal to the spec, to the implementations themselves. The biggest change we made was adding the formal concept of a watcher. We'd avoided that since anyone can be a watcher on a DID, but we actually defined some interactions between a DID controller and a watcher to make it more formal how watchers operate. So that's the only real change in the spec from the V05 version. So excited to have people take a look at that and plan out implementations and give feedback on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great to hear. Yes, Mary.
Yes, hello. I'm Meri Valtiala. I'm with the Human Colossus Foundation, and I have met some of the people in the call, but we're also doing things on data harmonization and not so much in the consumer identification, but in the area. So it's just my personal interest more. But yeah, thank you for inviting me to this call.
Yeah, absolutely. We're glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for introducing yourself.
Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements or introductions? All right. In terms of some quick project updates on Akapai, I know big announcement of release 1.3.0 coming out. A lot of great features and fixes. Stephen, did you want to go into more detail about that one?
I could just to touch on it. Lots and lots of updates in it. I was going to try to count how many, but there's just way too many PRs in it. So I don't know, 100 PRs, something like that, are in it. So it's a large release. Lots of stabilization. improvements in on-credit support, multi-tenancy support, DIDCOM interoperability, lots of things to do with developer experience, smoothing that out, making it easier, and improvements in the software supply chain score. The Open SSF, Open Secure Software Foundation's scorecard, we significantly improved the score of Akapai in this, or some of the developers did a great job on that. So lots of things there. I also put into the links a couple of things that came up last week. The folks in Credo added a link to this deep wiki site, which basically takes as input a repository and generates documentation for it. Presumably that's as good as the actual documentation is in there. So I've added the links to both the Akapai and the Credo one to the interoperability page, so people can take a look at them. I thought it was kind of interesting. Biggest thing being they are much more aggressive at generating. It is much more aggressive at generating pictures of stuff. So there's that.
Cool.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Yeah, thank you for posting those links. And yeah, I've just sent out this whole meeting page in the chat for those who want to find these links. So yeah, great to hear. Thanks for those updates. Let's see, any other project updates anybody would like to share? In the next few weeks, we will have Bifold maintainer come in and talk about Bifold. So we'll be diving into that one soon. So looking forward to that. All right, let's see. Unless anybody wants to jump in with any more announcements, project updates, or introductions, I think we can go ahead and start with the presentation. And so I'll kick it off over to Lala and George. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you. George, will you be sharing the screen? Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's get going then. Yeah, so hello, my name is Lal Chandran. By the way, do you all hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so my name is Lal Chandran, and I'm the co-founder and CTO of iGrand.io. We are a digital identity software provider based out of Stockholm, Sweden. At iGrand.io, we work closely with the public sector on EU digital identity wallets and on enabling secure digital wallets for payments and health exchange. So these are the sectors that we have been predominantly working with in the past 5-6 years. We offer both individual wallet software as well as organizational wallet suite. Individual wallets are available both on App Store and Google Play, and this is predominantly something that we do for our tests and our trial use case scenarios, and it supports all the OpenID for VC workflows as well as Aries. George, you can move to the next slide. While our organization wallet suite supports issuance, verification, holder functionality. So what we have tried is to map all the requirements that are coming predominantly from the EU when it comes to natural person wallet into a software that we roll out in the mobile phone. And then we also do the similar kind of thing for legal person, digital wallet, or organization wallet. That's essentially what we do. Next slide, please. So in today's session, most of the work that we are presenting, me and George are going to present, it will be related to the work that we've been doing in the European Union Digital Identity Wallet Consortium, or the EWC, which you might be familiar with, which is one of the large-scale pilots funded by the EU Commission. So we particularly thank all involved in the payment task force, which provide us all the inputs to make this whole specification ready and also the pilot happen. And the team was led by Visa, and we also achieved the first production readiness using the solutions involving a lot of different partners. But before I go there, I also want to introduce George. George, I let you introduce yourself. Okay.
Hi, my name is George. I'm partner and head of DevOps to iGrand.io. At present, leading the initiatives in digital wallet space in EWC and other communities for iGrand.io. Over to you, Lal.
Thank you, George. So as I mentioned, Visa was leading this payment task force, and we achieved the first. You can move to the next slide. We achieved the first payment live in production. So all the companies that you see on the screen is like the subset of the payment task force, which we call as the payment pilot organizations, which joined or which actively made these or translate the specifications into real scenarios. And what you see on the right side is the first ticket that was bought with the so-called EUDI wallet. Using an iGrand.io wallet, that was the bank involved was Bank of Transylvania, together with their partner BPC, using Visa card via a worldwide network towards a merchant called Fastferries, and University of Agent was also involved quite a bit in supporting the whole integration, especially towards the merchant side, which is Fastferries. Whatever I and George is going to demonstrate and present today, you can also try it out yourself in the link that is shown on the screen, the EUDI Wallet payments page that we have hosted, where you can experience the whole flow, be it for a merchant-led flow, a bank-led flow, which I'll be explaining a little bit more in the subsequent stages. Next slide, please. So this is providing a bit of a landscape on the various roles and responsibilities that are involved in a typical payment world. So for some reason, the slide hasn't moved properly, George. Is it? Okay, great. So on the very left side is a merchant domain. Then the second one is the interoperability domain and the banking domain. So these three, once again, these three things, which is the first three blocks, which you see is essentially what is existing today. So what we have done as the first iteration is to really retrofit the concept of EUDI wallet, added the EUDI wallet domain into an existing payment network and payment payment landscape, which is here on the right side. And in the EUDI wallet domain, we have, of course, the wallet provider. We have the PID issuer, the personal identification data issuer, wallet providers, QTSPs, the qualified trust service providers, such as, for example, Intisi Group, which has also been quite active in making the whole pilot happen. Next slide, please. So in payments with EUDI wallets, there are two key aspects from an individual point of view. The first aspect is where the individual connects their EUDI wallets to their bank account, and the bank issues a digital proof. So that when the bank issues a digital proof that is connecting his or the individual's account to the EUDI wallet, this essentially enables the SCA or secure customer authentication functionality that can be used for any subsequent transaction, such as for example, online payments using a EUDI wallet. Once linked, can I click? Yeah. Once the individual has acquired a payment wallet at station or a bank authenticator, the individual can use a EUDI wallet to approve payments. And this can happen in two ways. One is what we call the merchant-led transaction, and the second one is the bank-led transaction. Merchant-led is essentially when you can imagine yourself buying something from a merchant, like an online store or a shop. When the bank uses EUDI wallet as a second factor authentication to approve a transaction, that's essentially a bank-led payment. So if you're interested more to understand these concepts a bit more, you can always refer to two RFCs. And by the way, we have also adopted a very similar approach as the interoperability SIG used to take when it comes to the Aries world. We have in the EWC, we have formulated these RFCs, which took an opinionated stand on the protocols and standards that we need to support to make the interoperability happen. And if you click, George, so we have two RFCs that may be of interest to you. One is RFC 7, which is all about linking a EUDI wallet to a bank IT system or a bank account. And the second one is RFC 008, which is all about approving a transaction. I think the naming is wrong over there. The second one, RFC008, is payment wallet confirmation, which is all about approving a transaction. Next, please. So this is to show the whole architecture. So I mentioned about the organization wallet suite. So in our organization wallet suite, we support the issuance, holder, and verification functionalities from an organization standpoint. And we also provide the functionality to manage keys either by iGrand's own service, or you can pretty much bring in a QTSP from outside, or you can hook on a HSM into your own HSMs if some of the public sector entities that we work with had their own HSMs, in which case they can pretty much hook on the HSM into our management system and then begin to issue credential, for example, and user signing infrastructure they may already have, for example. And all these things are also detailed in the link that I've shared in the very bottom. That's the organizational wallet overview. Next slide, please. So now let's get into the RFC007 or linking the EUDI wallet to bank account scenario. In here, the very first thing that the individual does is typically go to a bank portal and log into their account. And once they log into their account, they are requesting to connect the EUDI wallet to the bank account, which they have already logged into, for example. Of course, this can also be done in other ways, but what I'm demonstrating is one possible scenario. And once the bank is being asked to link the EUDI wallet, the bank may require additional proof, such as, for example, a PID or a passport. In our production case, we used a passport because passport was already a approved way of identifying an individual in the bank that we've been working with. It can also be in the future very much using a PID, which provides a lower high security. And once the individual receives a ID proof, the individual can provide the ID proof, again, as a verifiable credentials. As I mentioned, it can be PID or a passport. And once the bank is performing the requested verification in the backend, they could issue a payment authenticator. And that's a final step. And once the payment authenticator is issued, the individual stores their payment authenticator into his or her wallet. So a payment authenticator typically contains the bank account or the payment source. So it can be used to pay directly from the bank account or a card that is linked to your account. So in our production scenarios, we've used a Visa card. And then, of course, it includes the digital key that approves the connection is truly yours, enabling all the SCA or secure customer authentication functionality, strong customer authentication functionality. And in this case, as I mentioned, we have used a passport in production, while you can very much configure the organization wallet suite to also verify PID instead of a passport and so on. Can you click one more? Yeah, you can also try out this whole sequence of activity, which I just walked through from the link that I shared. So this is largely towards developers who want to understand the whole workflow, and we are happy to provide an API key if you need so. Next slide, please. So there's a bunch of parties that were involved in this linking the EUDI wallet. So we have trial with Bank of Transylvania, which I mentioned before. We've also used a PID-based PID to identify the individual. And the PID was provided by Moya ID, which was like a PID provider, which is performing the role of a PID provider in EWC from Czech Republic. And we use iGrand Wallet. And then we use Intesi Group as the qualified trust service provider. On the other side, we have the bank as a verifier, which is confirming any kind of transaction when the actual payment has happened, and then Fastferries as a merchant that was carrying out that was issuing or that was receiving the payment or requesting payment from a EUDI wallet. So this the overall rules that were involved in the whole end-to-end transaction. Next slide, please. So this providing a bit of a detailed flow to the RFC 007 itself. I won't go into the details, but essentially what we have done is created a bank domain that has an existing ID infrastructure that is on the very right side. And then we have a issue wallet or issue functionality that was embedded or that was tied, owned and operated by the bank that was used to receive any kind of interaction with the EUDI wallet and also issue the payment wallet attestation on the bank authenticator and so on. So again, these are very much documented in detail in RFC 007. Feel free to have a look at it and comment on. Next slide, please. So once the individual has acquired a payment authenticator in their wallet, they may use it for any subsequent transaction, such as, for example, an online payment from a merchant. In this case, this is what I'm showcasing there. On the merchant side, again, we have a merchant payment system, such as a point of sale device, which is connected to a merchant organization wallet or with verifier functionality. So the first thing that the merchant wallet has provided as an interface towards the payment point of sale device is the ability to request for payments. So request payment confirmation plus requesting for a payment authenticator from the individual to sign off the transaction. So once the individual scans that QR code or tap the point of sales device, essentially the individual gets a pop-up and which is requesting for certain transactional data, and the individual is signing the transaction data with a key bound to the payment wallet attestation or bank authenticator, and also sharing the wallet unit attestation plus the key binding. And these are essentially the requirements coming from the PSD2 or the strong customer authentication requirements that we have fulfilled in doing this. Once the merchant receives that transaction, the merchant is pretty much calling the 3DS in the backend with the transaction data as is. So they're merely forwarding the data to the bank, the issuer bank, and the bank IT system, on the other hand, has a verifier, and they perform all this the sufficient checks. If you can click, George. So the bank verify the transaction data against the previously issued payment wallet attestation or payment authenticator. And once that verification is successfully completed, the bank's system is confirming to the merchant that the payment is all okay. And the merchant, you can see a proof or a successful transaction on the merchant portal, for example. So the step number 6 is pretty much showing the confirmation that the payment has been successful and the merchant has successfully carried out the transaction. Next slide, please. And you can work through this whole flow as well in the link that is appearing at the very bottom. This is essentially showing how the transaction is fulfilled after the individual has linked the bank account with the EUDI wallet, and the individual has used the EUDI wallet for any particular payment transaction. Josh, over to you then.
So once the merchant receives the confirmation from the individual, as Lal mentioned earlier, the merchant has to create this 3DS payment object. As you can see in the screen, it contains these details, payment wallet attestation that is used for signing the transaction data, and its key binding proof, the wallet unit attestation that was received from the individual's wallet, and its key binding proof, the transaction data hash algorithm that was used for signing the transaction data, and then the transaction data itself, which contains the actual transaction information such as the amount, payee, merchant, name, etc. This is then captured in an object, and the merchant passes it along with the 3DS protocol, and finally it is received in the card issuer side or the payment service provider side. And the bank is finally verifying this object and then confirming the transaction, as Lal mentioned earlier. So I'll move to the demo now. So on the left side, you can see the data wallet app or the EUDI wallet, and on the right side, the demo scenario for RSC 007 and 008. 007 is all about issuing a payment authenticator by the bank to the individual and linking it to the account or the card that is in the bank for this individual. So as a first step, the individual has to identify themselves to the bank. In the pilot, it was done using the passport, but here it is done using a PID. So you have, as an individual, you have to have a PID in your wallet. You can obtain a dummy PID by following the instructions as given in the step 1. So in my case, I already have a PID for this demonstration in my data wallet or EUDI wallet. And let me move to step 2. In step 2, I'll be using this PID and identifying myself to the PSP or the card issuer. Once the card issuer gets my data from the PID, they can perform an identity mapping and identify the user within their system and prepare the necessary data that is required for issuing the payment authenticator. So let me scan this QR code here. And you can see here, Bank of Transylvania from Romania is requesting my PID information, and I'm sharing this information to the bank. Let me click on confirm. And now a request has been sent to the bank. This was a deferred issuance flow. So the bank is notified that I have shared my verification data, and the bank system gets notified about it. Once the bank system get notified, they can collect the necessary data that is required for issuing the payment authenticator based on the identity that I've shared. So let me go to the issuance step as a bank issuer. And I click on issue button as a bank issuer. And in the individual EUDI wallet, a bank card has been received. So I'll accept it. And the card is finally added to the issuer's EUDI wallet. That concludes the demo for RSC 001, which is pretty much all about issuing a payment authenticator after identifying the user in the bank or the BSP side. I'll move to the next demo, which is 008, which is all about making a payment once you have the payment authenticator in the EUDI wallet. There are 2 flows here, the bank-led flow and the merchant-led flow. So we'll be focusing on merchant-led flow now in this demo. So in the merchant-led flow, the merchant is the one who is creating the payment request to get the payment confirmed by the individual. So here you can see as an individual, I'm purchasing a ticket for traveling. So let me click the next, and I'm entering my card details, etc. here in the payment page, and clicking on next. And finally, I as an individual, scanning the QR code for confirming the payment. And in my EUDI wallet, I get the payment request from the merchant. On the top, I can see the total amount that is getting confirmed here for the transaction, and which card am I using for confirming the transaction, and whom I'm making this payment to. Here it is Fast Ferries from Greece. So let me click on the pay button. And after some time, the payment gets confirmed in the merchant screen. So behind the scenes, the merchant sends the necessary details to the through the 3DS protocol. For example, like a payment gateway, Worldline can take care of it, and it finally reaches the PSP, or the card issuer, and the bank sends an authorization response back, successful authorization response back, and the acquirer bank can confirm the payment, and the merchant can show this successful indication to the user. That concludes my demo for RFC 008, which is all about confirming the payment transaction. I'll jump to the slide. So let me explain the workflows behind the demonstration that I showed you earlier. So in the RFC 007, on the left side, you can see the individual, which is all about issuing a payment authenticator to individual. On the left side, you can see individual is logging into the banking portal, and then the bank is showing a credential offer to the individual for receiving a payment authenticator. In order to create the credential offer, the bank has integrated to an organization wallet suite from a wallet provider. In this case, it is iGrand.io. As a prerequisite, the bank has already done the creation of credential definition and all those configurations in the organization wallet suite that is necessary for issuing the credential. Here, in this case, the bank also requires to identify the user before issuing the payment wallet attestation or payment authenticator. So they also have configured a presentation definition to do presentation during issuance or dynamic credential request. So here, after the user is logged in to the banking portal, they are shown a credential offer, which they can scan. And then once they scan, they are asked for the verification information. The individual shares their PID or passport to the bank. Bank gets notified about this identity information being received, and the bank can prepare the necessary details that is required for the issuance of the payment authenticator based on the user's account details present in the bank. So finally, once they are ready to issue the credential, they prepare and issue the credential using default endpoint, and the individual receives it in their EUDI wallet. So these are the workflows that is behind RFC 007, which is all about issuance of payment wallet attestation to the individual. Now moving on to RFC 008, the merch. There are two flows here, but I'll be focusing on merchant-led flow. This is all about payment data confirmation, which was demonstrated earlier. So here, first the individual visits a merchant for buying a ticket or buying a product or something. The merchant shows a QR code or a link to shares a link to the individual in their POS machine. In order to do that, the merchant has already integrated their system to an organization wallet suite. They have configured a presentation definition with transaction data, and merchant shows this QR code or the deep link or NFC tap interface to the individual. Individual then scans the QR code or taps their EUDI wallet into this POS machine. Once they tap or scan the QR code, they get a pop-up in their EUDI wallet to confirm the transaction using a credential that they have with them, which is payment authenticator in this case. So the individual, if they're okay with the transaction data that is asked to confirm, they can click on the confirm button in their EUDI wallet. Once they do that, they are basically signing the transaction data which was presented to them using the payment wallet attestation and inserting it in the key binding of the payment wallet attestation, which is being shared to the verifier. In this case, it is the merchant. The merchant then captures all this information into a certain object, which is then encoded and transmitted through 3DS protocol through a payment gateway or such as Birdline. And then it finally reaches the card issuer bank, this details, and the bank again has integrated an organization wallet suite, which was previously used to issue this payment authenticator. So they use the same mechanism, but in this case, the verifier functionality to verify the payment data object they received in the 3DS. And finally, once they have validated this object, they will send an authorization response back to the acquirer, and then acquirer informs the merchant that this transaction has been successful. So these are the workflows that is involved in the payment data confirmation as part of EWC RFC 008. And here are a bunch of references. You can try out the payment workflows that was demonstrated in today's call using this link and using the first link. And there are references towards EWC RFC 007, which is all about payment wallet attestation issuance by a PSP after identifying the user, and dev docs to integrate payment wallet attestation issuance and payment data confirmation workflows from iGrand.io. We also have reference to EWC RFC 008, which is all about payment transaction or payment data confirmation. So moving on to the next slide, handing over to Lal.
Yeah, thanks, George. I've also shared all the links in the chat box. Yeah, so since it's a interoperability sake, I just want to a second to introduce the EWC process. So we have adopted a very similar process as the ARIS communities, for example. And we also have set up a interoperability test bed, which is in the work package 4 in the very middle, which provides a test environment for anyone who is interested to to be interoperable with the rest of the issue verifier holders within EWC. And then these are also available towards any large-scale pilot. So we've had 4 different large-scale pilots so far, which has been using these interoperable software providers. Next slide, please. Yeah, just a little bit of an advertisement. So we have all these various LSPs still live. The phase 2 has concluded already, but you can still try it out. It's still live for you to try out. You don't necessarily need to take iGrand. You can take pretty much any of the wallet providers. There are 4 different wallets that are listed to be compliant to all the use cases. Some may be working to some specific use cases, but at least I know that 3 are working across all different scenarios. And of course, I would also invite you to try out our iGrand.io wallet payment portal, where you can experience these workflows yourself and see the experience the whole payment both for bank-led and merchant-led workflows. Yeah, so on that note, if there are some, I've tried to answer some of the questions that came in the chat. If there's any questions you want to ask, I don't know the process, Shar.
Yeah, feel free to, if you want to verbally address any of the questions in the chat, I think that would be super useful. Yeah, otherwise anybody can jump in with raised hands to ask questions. So yeah, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thanks for having us here. Is there any questions? If not,
yeah, I'll jump in with so many questions. I noticed in the wallet you had branding on the Visa card from the bank. How does that branding work in this system?
So the branding, in the payment world, it depends on the first few numbers. So if it's configured to a card, so if the payment wallet attestation contains it, so if it's Visa card, it comes with, I think it's 5 something, and if it's Amex, and there are libraries that are available to immediately translate that.
Okay, so the wallet recognized this type of credential is associated with the bank, this field within it. So it's basically hard-coded into the wallet.
Hard-coded into the credential that has been issued to the wallet, and the wallet uses a library to derive which payment provider it is, or card provider it is. And also the payment wallet iteration has two possibilities. One is to really pay directly from the bank, which we have not piloted yet. So that'll contain the bank that'll contain the bank account number, the IBAN number, or it can contain the card number. George, you were saying something?
Yeah, the authenticator contains the card art as well, which is a link towards a image.
That's also true. So on top of it, the bank can also have its own look and feel. So there's a possibility to brand it. So a bank may have a gold card and a premium card and a normal card and so on. So they can provide a card art that'll also be used to brand the user experience.
And is that a general function for any credential, or is that specific to this magical payment?
Yeah, for the payment, we have additionally done it, primarily because for the same payment wallet station, you can have multiple card look and feel. So for payments, it's an exceptional situation, but it's also a branding is in the standard. So, for example, if you define a particular credential definition, you can customize your branding according to at the organization level, or you can customize the branding per credential definition. Correct me here, George.
Yeah, like it said, the payment authenticator itself contains a lot of details, like such as the scheme, such as a Visa or MasterCard or whatever. And on top of that, it contains the card art as well. So in the payment case, like Lal mentioned, it was done very specifically for payment authenticator. The data model contains all the fields that is necessary for branding purposes. But other credentials can use the display details from the issuer's metadata, if I remember correctly.
And is that part of like SD-JOTs, or where does that in the general case?
In the general case, it's there in the issuer's metadata, right? The well-known endpoint for the issuer that contains the display details.
Okay.
It's in the standard OpenID for VCI, right?
OpenID for VCI, yeah, that's what I got that. There we go,
Yes.
finally got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So if I remember correctly from the architecture slide, it looks like SD-JOTs and MDocs are supported across the whole issuance and verification flow. How do the holder and issuer and verifier choose between those options?
So we have like a credential format definition. So when you are issuing, you can choose whether you want to have the format in MDoc, CVC, or the SD-JOT. So that is the three options we have provided in our implementation. George, do you want to answer the second part? How does the verifier know whether it's an MDoc?
Yeah, from the verifier side, they can specify it in the OpenID for VP. The specification that we in EWC adopted, the version of the specification still had references towards presentation exchange specification for allowing the verifier to specify different roles when they ask for a credential. Now, I believe it is dropped. We are moving towards TCQL. So basically, Verify can use digital credential query language or presentation exchange specification based on the version of OpenID for VP you adopt to specify the credential that is required for the verifier side fulfilling a service.
Yeah. So from a product point of view, the way we have implemented this, the verifier can request different formats.
Yeah,
and they can also request multiple formats in the same transaction. So they can request one credential. So let's say a particular country has MDoc as the PID, while something else could be SD-JOT. It's also possible to request for credentials from different formats, and our verifiers can translate these things.
Oh,
Definitely.
interesting. So two different credentials in different formats could become
Ye-
one presentation.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
because at the end of the day, from an end user point of view, he or she doesn't care whether it is MDoc or FTDoc.
Right.
He or she,
Right.
yeah. So we try to make the user experience same, regardless of the credential formats that is being requested. And then there are like a few different combinations and permutations out there. For example, the requester may ask for like mandatory requests for presentations. They may ask one mandatory, one optional, and they may ask for each of the credential. They may ask, say, attribute could be optional, and so on. So if it's an SDJOT, they can ask for name and say age and nothing else, for example, and so on. So those are the various combinations possible from a user experience perspective.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Different.
When the merchant gets the payment presentation, the proof from the wallet, does that give the merchant correlatable data? In other words, do they know who the purchaser is?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it depends on what the merchant has specified in that payment request. Because at the end of the day, it's an OpenID for VP request, so they can specify multiple credentials to be verified in the same flow as part of the payment request. In this specific pilot scenario, it was requesting only for the payment authenticator, which does not contain any personally identifiable information. But yeah, but there is, for example, there could be a scenario where the merchant is asking for passport with a payment authenticator during the payment request. So then in that case, the merchant can know who this person is, and yeah.
Yeah, I can answer.
Let me ask. Can I ask just a slightly variation on that? Is there a way that the merchant doesn't get correlatable data? So if I'm going down and I'm walking down the street and I buy some cheese, and obviously I don't need a passport or anything like that for that. It's not age verified. I'm just buying some cheese. Can I do that in a way that the merchant does not have any way that if I go back tomorrow and buy more cheese, they know, oh, this guy's a cheese buyer? Is that possible, or is it just not possible in this with the RFCs defined? I'm just wondering.
So typically from a relying party point of view, if they are consuming any data, they need to follow the law. So for example, if you talk about GDPR, they need to have a legal basis of requesting the data. So if they are carrying a transaction, if they're asking for your passport, and if they have a legal base of doing that, then nothing really stops it. At the same time, I can, when it comes to correlatable correlation scenario, there are ways to solve it, and that is like that. That's of course a possibility, but the onus is very much on the relaying party, to only request that is that is requested where they have a lawful basis of requesting that particular data for carrying out a particular transaction. George, do you want to add something there?
In this example scenario, if you're buying cheese, for example, it doesn't require any additional details. But if you're buying in age restricted, okay, in that case also you just have to ask for the age. So it totally depends upon the merchant to request for the data and minimize the amount of data they request. And of course, the individuals involved in the process, they can see what kind of data is being requested by the merchant, and they can act on it. If additional information is required, of course, the individual can decide to opt out of that information, right, to be shared.
Yeah, no, I'm more wondering, is the signature the same? Is the key the same that they get from the wallet? Is it the same every time? And therefore it would be impossible to make it non-correlatable. Like even if you So if the only thing you asked for, the vendor was a good vendor and all they ever asked for was, you know,
Yeah.
frame
One
it,
solution.
and that's
Yeah.
it.
One solution I've come across, Stephen, is that issuing multiple same credential, multiple instances with different keys,
Yeah.
and you rotate, you do a
Yeah.
key rotation. So that's one way to solve it if
The
you are
batch
concerned.
issuance, the batch issuance
Exactly, batch
process.
issuance.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I got one more. If no one else is
Sure.
going to. Revocation, is that using like status list and things like that?
Yes, it's using token status list at the moment.
Okay.
And
Although I guess it's the actual payment goes fully back to the banking system in real time. I guess you don't even need that because the system would the bank can do, or the bank can do that in real time anyway, right?
Finally it reaches the bank, and then bank is the original issuer, so they can just immediately deny the
Yeah.
transaction.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for EWC, we're also using, on top of it, we're also using the EU trust list for all the qualified service providers and so on. So we are reusing the same concept for wallet providers, bid issuers, and so on. Any more questions? I hope we answered all the questions that were there in the chat.
Okay, I'll ask one more, which is I didn't quite understand what I believe you called it bank-led transaction. I think it was covered a bit in the chat, but I didn't really understand it. I wonder if you could just just as a high level, what's the purpose of the second flow?
So bank-led flow is like so the transaction is taken over, gone to the bank, and the bank is asking for additional proof. So that's the bank-led flow. So bank is asking for, it's almost like a second factor authentication from bank to make sure that it's you. And then you are presenting the payment wallet attestation or the bank authenticator as a proof to the bank directly.
Okay, so this is like the verified by Visa, where you type in your banking information, the bank gets it and says, and then goes into a flow where they pop up a thing to get you to confirm your. Okay,
Exactly.
got it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's basically the present flow, right? What we already have now, and then the bank basically takes a risk analysis and checks if this transaction requires a challenge. So there are two things there: frictionless and challenge. So frictionless is where you don't have any kind of authentication; it just goes through. And then if there is some risk associated to that, the bank can basically challenge the user. And in this case, they will challenge with the EUDI wallet QR code or whatever. And then the user can scan the QR code and then confirm the transaction, basically. And this happens in the that intermediate page that we all have seen when we make a transaction these days. So it'll go to an intermediary access control server ACS page, and from there, once everything is going well, the challenge, it is redirected to the bank, and the bank finally confirms the transaction, and then you are taken to the merchant page with a green check mark.
Let's see, are there other questions for Lal and George? All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. This was a super interesting discussion and presentation. I'll make sure to put the slides on the meeting page so that those watching the recording can follow along as well. Yeah, so thank you so much, Lal and George. Really appreciate you joining us and appreciate your time.
Thanks for having
And,
us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next week, we will learn about the Pidentity wallet from Patrick St. Louis. And we've got lots more interesting topics coming up in future calls. So thanks again, everybody, for joining, and have a great rest of your day.